Hey, Detroit, welcome back to Detroit Next, an effort by Bridge Detroit. And Detroit is different to keep you informed about all of the choices that we as Detroiters are going to make this year in 2025. Lots of them on the ballot, of course, mayor, city council, clerk. We still don't know whether there'll be any kind of referendums, I guess, on the ballot.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm Stephen Henderson.
I'm Malachi Barrett.
Yeah, and we are back to talk more about what is going on. We want to talk this episode and many episodes coming up. They're going to have specific themes, and we want to talk here a lot about the social safety net and economic opportunity in the city. Two things that affect most Detroiters in some way or another, but affect a large number of Detroiters in a really profound way. And we've seen some things happen recently that remind us of that.
Yeah, and I think, like, throughout this process, I just have been hearing that, like, housing and affordability are kind of the top 2
It's
issues.
everything.
Housing in terms of affordable housing, displacement, social safety nets for people that lose access to housing,
Mhm.
and then when it comes to why are people unable to afford, are wages not increasing? Do we not have enough job opportunity? What is kind of the landscape of people being able to increase their earning potential and
Yeah.
and as they build families and things like that, so
For the people who want to be mayor, the people who want to be on city council, these are critical questions. And the question to each of them is, okay, you live in the city like the rest of us. You see what's happening. What would you do? What specifically would you do to make things different, to make things better for Detroiters who need it? And it's a hard question for people to answer. It's not a question a lot of them are going to face. I think in a lot of places we want to make sure that we ask it here. I had a chance to sit down with Mayor Duggan a few weeks ago, talk to him about a wide range of things, but did ask him about this, and we want to put that question to all of the candidates for mayor as well. And so this week on the podcast, we're going to talk with Solomon Kinloch, who is the pastor of Triumph Church. Malachi, you had a really good conversation with him about a wide range of things, but this in particular. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get to the mayor and the person who wants to be mayor, first of all, we want to again emphasize that we want to talk with all the candidates. I keep running into them around town. They all keep saying, when will I get to come
we
on?
got a couple folks booked.
Yeah.
We're asking folks, what is your plan? But also, I think an important question is, what have you been doing
What are you
already?
doing? Yeah.
And so I think our first guest just happened to be our first guest because of scheduling.
Right.
Reverend
Right.
Kinloch has been working on a lot of these issues. So I think
Yeah.
he's a good person to select for this topic. But we've got some other candidates booked as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And they'll all come here and talk with us, not just once, but I think several times.
We'll
Uh,
see how much fun he had. Maybe he won't come back.
I was gonna say we'll see who's a repeat visitor.
Yeah.
But we're gonna talk first about the news, right? What happened since the last episode of Detroit Next?
Yeah, we had what I think a lot of people had expected, the entrance of former police chief James Craig into this race. He now actually makes 10 candidates,
10 candidates.
which is kind of crazy. What's interesting about him is, not only is he very well known and kind of comes into this race with, name recognition, which is very, campaigns spend a lot of money to get that,
Yeah.
to make sure people know who they are. He's also a Republican, a very outwardly, out conservative. He's a Trump supporter. He's endorsed the current president,
Yeah.
multiple times.
Craig was a popular chief. I think people forget when he was chief. People liked the bravado. They liked the aggressive stance on everyday kind of crimes, not just violent crimes like murder or robbery or things like that, but things that really affect people's everyday lives. No one seemed to care that he was. I mean, he was a conservative then. I mean, at
Yeah.
least I always have known him as a conservative. He wasn't hiding it. Uh, I do wonder whether, in the last few years, he's been more animated about his politics, more public about his politics, and they seem to have shifted, right? I mean, he was a pretty conservative guy. Now he's a MAGA guy,
It's a different
and that's
classification.
different. The only poll that I've seen that's been done about this, it was by the
The
Black
Michigan
Caucus of the
Democratic
Michigan
Party,
Democratic Party. Mary Sheffield's the president of the city council is way out ahead in that poll. Second place went to undecided.
Mhm.
But third place and not far behind that was James Craig, and he wasn't even in the race yet.
Right.
So I think people would be careless, I think, to dismiss him as not having any chance. If he's somebody that people know, that helps him, and he's provocative. He's going to get a lot of press.
And
Uh,
public safety is a really important issue, and he
it's
might
yeah,
be the most credible person in
yes,
on that issue, right? And he said, "Look, if you liked the job that I did, that job was done by a conservative."
by a Republican.
So, yeah, I mean, if that's good enough, then
It could sell. I mean, uh, the lesson we learned, I think, in 2013 more than anything, when Mike Duggan, a white guy from Livonia who moved into the city not much more than a year before and had to stage a write-in campaign because he didn't qualify for the ballot, ended up walking away with the election is don't count anybody out. We also saw Jonathan Barlow
mhm.
file. You've talked with
Yeah.
Jonathan. Tell us about his hopes here.
He's an interesting guy. He presents himself as kind of a convener of people who have really good ideas and people that can fund those ideas.
Mhm.
He kind of described himself as like a venture capitalist businessman whose family also has pretty deep roots to the Black church in Detroit and has kind of an organizing background. He also has worked on some political campaigns in the past. He was working for the Oakland County Dems last year and
Mhm.
has been doing kind of behind the scenes political work. So he's kind of stepping out into the public view for the first time in this way. Um, he really wants to make Detroit a tech hub, which I think aligns very closely with your conversation with Mayor Duggan
Mhm.
and what I think state leaders are seeing as the what needs to happen in our urban centers to get population growth churning and to create opportunities for people that live here.
Yeah, I am always impressed when people who don't have a lot of name recognition, don't have a lot of political experience, and don't, at least outwardly, have a ton of their own money to just dump into a campaign, nonetheless raise their hands and say, I want to do this job and I want to talk to voters about it. I think that's a really great sign of, again, a healthy democratic body politic. And the fact that we have 10 candidates for mayor and they aren't just people that you would just dismiss offhand is a really healthy sign. It's going to be a really interesting year, and I think even candidates like Jonathan Barlow have a chance to have an effect on it, right? By bringing something to the field that other people can't. He puts that question or that test, I guess. We do want to talk about the social safety net and economic opportunity in the city. Two huge issues for many Detroiters, and we should talk about what brought us to this subject for this episode. Now more than a month ago, two small children died while sleeping in a car in a garage at one of the casinos. The parent was with them. The whole family, in fact, was in the car. This was, an example of the kind of poverty that Detroiters still struggle with, still have real challenges with in Detroit. And I think it shook everyone out of the complacency that I think we kind of fall into sometimes, missing that, not thinking about what that looks like on a day to day basis. Obviously, his family didn't have that opportunity. Um, you know, I was disappointed when it happened that there wasn't more talk about the policy context for this incident. What leads a family to that position in the first place? Uh, why they were unable to get the kind of emergency assistance from the social safety nets that we do have set up in the city. And again, what are the economic opportunities that we can create for Detroiters to get out of those kind of situations? Now, look, this was a horrific incident, and people were rightfully focused on the tragedy here. But we do really want to spend some time thinking about those questions, those policy questions, and how they fit into this mayor's race.
But you look at numbers on a sheet that say that there's availability in the shelters and that seemingly we're doing the right things to make resources available for folks. And I think what that misses is the situations of people that are out there.
Yeah.
see folks at the Rosa Parks Transit Center using it as a warming shelter, and are kind of pushed out in the wintertime. Why is that happening? Why do they not have access to the warming shelters that the city establishes and recreation centers and other places?
Mm-hmm.
Why are people not able to spend time in the shelters even when there's space available? Mayor Duggan has outlined a 7-point plan to address some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how effective that is, but this is a deeply entrenched issue that I think the next mayor is going to have to really think seriously about.
How do you build or help families build opportunity for themselves to get to a more stable economic place? And that's a very broad subject with a lot of different pieces. But that's another big part of being mayor or even being on the city council here, is thinking those things through. I had a chance to talk with Mayor Duggan about these things, and we're going to hear from him in this episode about what he thinks failed that allowed this family to be in the position they were in. And he talked some about things that the city has done especially through Detroit at Work, to give people more opportunity, get them. It's not even about creating opportunities. It is about connecting people to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have so many folks who don't know how to access the opportunities that are there, or are not prepared for those opportunities. The city's done a lot to focus on that. But we'll also hear from Solomon Kinloch, who's the pastor of Triumph Church and one of the 10 candidates for mayor. He's spent a long time thinking about this space. He's spent a long time working in this space. And in your conversation, Malachi, you even get to his own personal knowledge and experience here.
He talked about at one point, Child Protective Services was threatening to take him from his parents. Mm-hmm. They were in a very unstable situation on the brink of homelessness himself. Mm-hmm. So he definitely brings some personal experience to that. I don't know. Sounds like a pretty good episode. What do you think?
Yeah. I think we're getting to the meat of it, and that was the whole point, right? So let's take a look at what Mayor Mike Duggan and what Pastor Solomon Kinloch have to say about the social safety net and economic opportunity. So with this family that was sleeping in the casino garage, I kind of see two problems. One is the safety net that exists that should catch families like that who are, in that kind of situation before they get to the point where they're sleeping in a garage. The second is the move to opportunity that prevents them from being in that space in the first place. And in the case of that family, both of those fail for whatever reason. What are we doing wrong that's not catching families like that? What do we need to do better that would catch them?
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, we took 2,000 people who have been unemployed for 6 months in Jumpstart, mm-hmm. and got them into training and a job. Now, when you're interacting with folks who haven't worked in 6 months, likely a lot going on in their lives, their confidence is shot and the like. And so those are 2,000 successful families. We need 20,000 successful families, and we'll keep going the right direction. The tragedy on the Williams-Curry family was that we put a safety net in place a month after this family last had contact with us, and that's the part that I'm having so much trouble accepting.
What's that safety net?
So you call the CAM network, you hear about this, the phone calls that go in.
Yeah.
3/4 of the people who call are housed when they call. I'm on a friend's couch. I'm staying with a neighbor. And what the CAM system is doing is, by and large, prioritizing between people who are housed at the time they call. Mm-hmm. And Ms. Williams had called at times when her family was housed. But last winter, the Detroit police told me they were finding people on the street and they didn't have a place to take them to. I said, we're going to have a safety net system that if you're unsheltered, you're really on the street, you go immediately to shelter where you're taken care of, no call to CAM, no bureaucracy. And on December 16th, we opened up 2 centers with 110 beds that the police, the social workers, the outreach workers can take everybody and nobody is refused.
Right.
That system has worked for everybody they have found on the street or have reached out since mid-December. What the system didn't do was
go
look
back.
in parking structures
Yeah.
for people in cars. And,
Yeah.
and we're looking at, should we be more vigorously looking at people staying in cars? Our outreach workers, they pretty well know where you'll find people on sidewalks or in underpasses. And as you know, most of the people who are out choose not to go to a shelter, but we still have contact with them every week. Our outreach workers know them by name. And if it gets particularly cold, maybe they change their minds. But the fact that this family last had contact with our system a month before the safety net went into place is something that's just deeply troubling. We didn't follow up. The police and the outreach workers never ran across them because they weren't looking in the parking structures, and it's a hard one to accept.
Yeah. The other side of this, of course, is moving people from that kind of emergency status to stability and ultimately to a kind of a middle-class economic status. All the numbers say we're doing that in important ways. And Detroit Future City has really, I think, produced a lot of information about how that's working. From your chair, what's working there? What are you guys doing that is moving people into
I think the job that Terry Weems is doing at Detroit at Work is
Work,
amazing. And the Jumpstart program, where we went out to people who've been unemployed for 6 months. So we had Federal American Rescue Plan money to pay people. But today, if you do not have a GED degree, your earning potential over your life is very limited.
Yeah.
We'll pay you $10 an hour to take classes. You can take them online. If you've got a job right now, you can take them online nights and weekends to boost your pay. If you can't qualify for GED because you don't read an 8th grade level, we'll pay you $10 an hour for literacy courses, and as long as you're advancing. We will keep doing this. So we've created opportunities for folks who want them, and as I say, thousands of people have taken advantage. And we just need to continue to build that culture that everybody knows that if I want to earn more money, Detroit at Work is a way, because the truth is you earn what you learn, and we provide that path.
Yeah. The other issue that we've come across, of course, is a reminder of our infrastructure and how much attention it needs. It's billions of dollars to catch up on delayed maintenance with especially water infrastructure. Why hasn't that moved faster?
Well, it has. I mean, they're spending $50 million a year upgrading the system. If you go back and look at the news reports for 2014, we had cars frozen in streets with broken water mains all over this city. It happened 100+ times. What Gary Brown and the Water Department have gone through the most vulnerable areas, shored them up, put in liners where it's appropriate, and the number has reduced. That doesn't mean when you've got a system that's essentially 100 years old and you have a freezing time, and we will see whether the ground shift caused it. We don't know yet what caused it. But normally, what you see is a water main break of a small water main in a neighborhood. This is the first time in Detroit that we had the massive, basically 6-foot water main that's bringing the water from the Detroit River collapse. And it was just stunning how fast it put that neighborhood underwater. It was also very impressive how fast we got the water back down. But I just came from there again. I'm out there 2 or 3 days a week and just talking to neighbors and following up. But the reality is we have an infrastructure was built in the last century, and we have a lot of work to do.
But even at the pace of $50 million a year, we're not catching up. I mean, the hole's being dug quicker than we're filling it.
I don't think there's any question. It is getting better every single year. We are seeing far fewer. If you drive through the city, again, I'll take it back. If you drove through the city in a rainstorm in 2016, the streets flooded everywhere. Right. We bought these 8 Vector trucks and went in and unclogged those drains. The drainage is dramatically better throughout the city. It's not something people notice every day, but Gary Brown has dramatically improved it. We went into the areas that had the most basement backup, and we did the most work. We cut roots out of sewer lines so that they didn't back up. Every year gets better, but 20 years from now, it's still possible. And I just saw, somebody just sent me a TV story about a water main break that happened in Grand Rapids that flooded the houses last summer. So this is an issue everywhere, but right now, all I care about is basically the 400 houses in Southwest Detroit.
So if you think about those two problems, these are intrinsic problems that cities face with
Sure.
infrastructure, with poverty. What do you see as the opportunity for the next mayor to build on what's happening, and what do you see as the challenges, the things that that person's going to have to do more of or be more aggressive about to move things faster?
You know, the only hesitation I had, and I by and large feel like I did what I came to do in 12 years was enough, is what is happening with the violence rate is remarkable. I mean, almost 400 homicides the year before I ran, down to 200 last year. We're down again so far this year. Boston last year had 28. It is possible to get violence down. We're using a number of the Boston tactics. We've added a number of our own that other cities are copying. But Boston got there through 20 years of sustained strategy.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that whoever succeeds me sticks with the commitment we've made to the community policing, to the use of technology, to the use of the community violence intervention teams. The strategies that we have put together are driving the violence down, but it needs to be continued for another 10 years. I'd love to see the day when there's not 100 homicides in the city of Detroit, and I do think I will live to see that day.
I talk a lot about the really great things that are happening with investment and development in the city, and the need to connect that more directly with what's happening to people in other parts of the city, even just as a demonstration to say this and this are related. In other words, it's connected. It's one city, not two. How can you do that? Is that possible?
I think the 600 block club presidents of the city would greatly disagree with what you just said.
Would they? Why?
Absolutely. They've had, again, the property values across this city have tripled in the
gone
last
up.
10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't gone up. They've tripled.
Right.
I mean, they've been leading America, and that's because recovery has spread to every corner. But I will take you down Kercheval near McClellan, that was pretty much an abandoned zone 10 years ago, that is now filled with shops and housing. Take you down Rosa Parks, which was the site of the violence in '67, and you'll see a church has now been renovated as a very active restaurant community center, new apartments opening up. We can go down McNichols near Livernois, where 5 years ago, every one of those storefronts was covered by plywood.
Was closed.
Now we have a new merchant bank. We've got new housing going up because the adjoining neighborhoods are there. Take you through neighborhood after neighborhood.
I'm glad you're here because we've identified, a number of different issues. Candidates have been talking about different issues that are important, but these gaps in the social safety net, and if I can describe it that way, seem really proximate. There's an urgent need to address some of the issues that we've seen just in the last couple of weeks, with the death of the two children in the parking garage, with a massive, infrastructure failure in Southwest Detroit. So I'd like to start by kind of talking a little bit about some of your plans to address these issues, and they're very complicated issues. I was interested to hear during your campaign launch, the story of your childhood experiences and your family being in poverty.
Yes.
Tell our audience a little bit about, what that was like for you.
Growing up, it was harsh. One of the things that I had to question is that if this was all that life could offer me, really did I need to see any more? And it was in those mammoth and monumental moments that I got clarity that God had a bigger purpose and a bigger plan for my life. The church not only was a place where we went for spirituality, it was a catalyst. It was a place that represented salvation, because that's what it did for not just me, but for my entire family. It saved our life. And that feeling of desperation and of despair has been the fuel that fueled me throughout my entire tenure, not only as a man and as an adult, but also my life as a pastor. My entire pastoral experience has been fueled by that feeling I had as a child, and wanting to use that platform not to just promote a person. Someone asked me the other day, you were a person that used to shy away from public attention. And that was intentional, because I never thought to see myself as using the platform to promote a person. I always thought that the platform that I had been given, anointed, and assigned for was to lift an entire community of people. And that's what I have used the platform for 27 years. That's what I believe the church is. It's not just a place where a big commotion occurs, but I believe it's a point where we instigate and sometimes irritate to get people animated and activated, not to just sit in the pew, but know that they have a responsibility, more responsibility to make a difference in the world that we can serve. When I think about what happened to those innocent children, Malachi, we got to think about it. That's 3 generations in one car.
Mm-hmm. Grandmother, mother, 2 children.
In one car. And they reached out for help. And in a city and in a municipality with those type of resources and those type of relationships, and we lose 2 children. If that cannot be a moment for us to confront and contend with, that we must ensure that we do everything humanly possible going forward so that incidences like that can never happen again. That's how we memorialize and celebrate the life of those children.
I think a lot of people are just baffled how you look at the amount of money that is being invested, federal dollars coming through HUD. You look at the resources that are available, for a major city like this. I mean, obviously there were missteps in communication of what resources were available on that particular night. I don't want to get into backseat quarterbacking, who should have called who on one night, because the situation is, they were in that situation for a long time. These kids were going to school every day, from the backseat of a car into the school. So I guess what I'm asking you is, this is bigger than just they should have picked up the phone and called on this particular night.
Yes.
The mayor has outlined a 7-point plan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it calls for more investment in transitional housing and shelters. What do you think about that plan? What would you maybe do differently? How do you add on that if you were to be elected?
Well, we all know, and I'm glad that everyone is confessing and being honest, that we have an issue with affordability and housing in this city. And there has to be not just an intentional plan, but we have to be intense about it. Dr. King often talked about the fierce urgency of right now. And this is one of those moments where we cannot expect anybody to wait any longer. We have a tremendous foundation in this city. We're in a place stronger than we've been in a long time. But we cannot bury our heads in the proverbial sand of downtown success until we see that success rippling throughout every sect and section of this community. Until it includes all, we have not done enough. And one of the things that we have to do is make sure that we become even more aggressive. There have been some great things that have happened, and there's some great things that are still happening, but we still have to be more aggressive. And so that's why one of my plans in the Kinloch administration is a commitment to build 10,000 affordable units. We have 60,000 parcels of property that are in the land bank. We have people who are in homes in communities like this that need some assistance because the homes many times are in deplorable conditions. They need help to renovate those homes. We need to put our people on a path to generational wealth, not to just survive, but to thrive. In order to do that, we need to continue the down payment assistance program. And one of the things I think is important is definitely we want to look out for the people who stuck and stayed in the city of Detroit, but also we want to open up opportunities to ensure that we're opening the door for continued growth and people who want to be a part of this. And so I'm excited to hear about the opportunity, but moving forward, I think we got to be even more motivated to provide housing, not just for people who are without home, but for people who are renting and put them on a path to owning and to increase the population of those that want to come and be a part of the city of Detroit's comeback.
Do you have a sense of how much it would cost to build 10,000 units? And what do you think is the time scale of that? Are we talking over the course of a 4-year term? Are we talking about a longer track to get there? What does that look like?
One of the things that we look at is the fact that we're going around communities in the next week or so, as we have been doing, just have listening sessions, listening to the needs of the community. Every community doesn't have the same need. I saw someone say, well, we're going to make sure it's equally distributed, where every community is not in the same condition. We need to assess and address the needs of the community and figure out. One of the things that we got to do a better job at is not coming in on our horses or piety and believing that we got the right to wield and lord over people, our agenda. But we need to start talking to the people in the community to make sure that they are part of the conversation. Just imagine if we had people at the table who lived in the community, corporate partners, union leaders, teachers, activists and advocates, and nonprofit leaders coming to the table in collaboration, partnering with people. People live in the neighborhood. They know what they need. They know the disparities and the inequities. They need to be a part. And Kinloch administration will ensure that they are part of those conversations, not after the fact, but they're the first thought.
Mhm. I ask because the mayor, Mayor Duggan, has talked a
Mhm.
lot about this. I think $1 billion affordable housing investment over the last 5 years or so. It's created about 5,000 units, a little bit shy of 5,000. So, I mean, realistically, it's going to take a lot of money, and even the amount of money that's been invested has not reached that 10,000 number. So I hear you're saying, let's get more aggressive. Let's get the community involved. But how realistic is that, and what is really the timeline for building
That's a
10,000 units?
realistic timeline. I believe that when you look at the houses that you already have and you look at the opportunity to explore new technology and the new ways of construction, and when you're building en masse, I believe through collaboration that is not, although it's a Herculean task, I don't believe that there's a hurdle that we cannot overcome in order to achieve that. One of the things that I think we have to consider is that it's already been done. When you sit down and ask foundations right now, just in the metropolitan area, they're distributing hundreds of millions of dollars. Just imagine if we had a holistic vision, a comprehensive vision that people can see and not just do it. And there's a lot of good work going on, but not just do it to feel good about it, but to do it knowing that every dollar is designed to drive us to a particular destiny, to a particular vision. I think we can harness those partnerships and those resources and not leave all of those resources on the table and get to the end of the year and say, what happened? But I think we can use those resources in a way in partnership to accomplish Herculean things like affordable housing.
Detroit Next is a community-led project from Bridge Detroit and Detroit is Different, which means we really can't do this without you. If you have a question or a comment or some donations that you would like to give Detroit Next, give us a call, 313-284-6407. Leave us a voicemail message. We will play these on the podcast if they are appropriate, so language. Head to bridgedetroit.com/donate and help us keep this free for everyone. It's really important that we keep this free for Detroiters. You can also subscribe to our newsletters, subscribe to DetroitisDifferent.com. You can get all of these episodes on YouTube as well as all of your favorite podcast networks. So Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and DetroitNext.podbean.com. We're going to be doing this all year long. We're going to have more conversations with candidates to come. We've already got a couple booked. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Detroit Next is a community-led project from Bridge Detroit and Detroit is Different, which means that we can't do this work without you. We need your support. If you have a question or a comment and want to participate in this process throughout the year, give us a call. We have a phone line set up at 313-284-6407. Leave us a message and we'll play it on the podcast. If you like what we're doing, head to bridgedetroit.com and subscribe to our newsletters. All of that content, again, is free, no paywalls for anybody. We're trying to make this as accessible as possible. Head to our YouTube channel to get full episodes and interviews along with extra content throughout the year. You can also find the audio version of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and DetroitNext.podbean.com. We're going to be doing this all year long, so stay with us. Follow Bridge Detroit and Detroit is Different on your favorite social media platforms and take this ride with us. Thanks.